All right, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, starting in verse 3. We're just going to read 3 verses this morning. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. Wonder why he talks about waging war. Because we still live in a world that has demonic opposition that we have to war against. So, again, for though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that's how we fight our battles as well, in the Spirit, and not according to the flesh, because the enemies that we war against are unseen and spiritual in nature. So we fight our wars not as the world fights, but with spiritual and divine power. Now, I want to review a couple of those verses. Verse 4 again says, the weapons of our warfare are not the weapons of the world. Instead, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. Now, what is a stronghold? Well, stronghold in the ancient Greek in which that was written was the word akorama, and it means a fortress or a stronghold. And by implication here, the more expanded meaning or the use of that word is used figuratively of a false argument in which a person seeks shelter or a safe place, my safe space, right, to escape reality. And that comes from the Helps Word Study. And the Helps Word Studies goes on to say that that word is also used figuratively for a prison. Now, notice that Paul says in this passage that the divine power that he's talking about in which he operated would demolish these strongholds. Okay? In other words, these strongholds are demonic in nature and take up residency most of the time in the mind. In the mind, which verse 5 speaks to. So let's look at verse 5 again. We take captive. We take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. This takes a little bit of energy because, the mind in the default position will go down every road of depression, every negative thought, every perverse thought, every thought of anger and bitterness and resentment and all that. That's the default position. That's the easy road that the mind goes down. So you have to make your thoughts obedient to Christ, and that's something proactive that you have to do. If you just let your mind just dwell on anything, it will hardly ever go down the right road. You have to make it obedient to Christ. So this is something proactive that we have to do. Okay? So that word thought there, we take captive every thought, is the Greek word noema, and it means thought or purpose. Thought or purpose. So a thought, it means in its expanded definition, a thought, purpose, design, refers to the mind, the heart, soul, and feelings. All right? Likewise, note that the MA suffix, this is out of the Helps Word Studies as well, note that the MA suffix, they write, which underlies the result of the thinking. In other words, the personal verdict that comes out of using the mind. See, when you dwell on something, that's going to have an impact on your life and the direction of your life. Proverbs 23:7 in the King James, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Exactly. So your mind, your life will tend to go in the direction of your prominent thoughts. I'm going to say that again. Your life will tend to go in the direction of your prominent thoughts. So our battleground then, folks, is most often in the mind. See, that's where Satan tries to gain access. He tries to manipulate our thoughts and our attitudes and our emotions or feelings. And this is where the Holy Spirit, through the Apostle Paul, once again instructs us to take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. Just because it's in your mind, you don't have to let it stay there. We take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. So again, if we don't do that, this is how Satan can gain control and set up a stronghold in our lives, and where the demonic can then begin to wreak havoc simply through, look at the screen, undisciplined thoughts and attitudes. Undisciplined thoughts and attitudes is one way the demonic can set up a stronghold in your life. But this is also where, by the way, on the flip side of that, this is also where those demonic influences can be kicked out and replaced with godly strongholds. See, this is an example of a godly stronghold. Someone who makes a strong determination that he or she is not going to be controlled by the demonic, but rather will fight against it to advance God's kingdom.
Thank you for tuning in to the ministry of Blessed Life Fellowship. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you can get more content like this. You can support the channel by becoming a monthly supporter or making a one-time donation now. To give, go to blessedlifefellowship.org and just hit the give button on the homepage. We appreciate your interest and support. God bless you.